Hi, welcome back. This is Nancy with Healthcare Pathways, and today I want to talk about picking the right healthcare career for your personality. So a lot of times people will get distracted and end up in the wrong path because they have chosen based off of income only or things that they've heard from other people or prestige, and it's not well suited for them. And the last thing you want is to start going down a path, especially if you start investing a lot of time and money into a path that you later realize isn't for you. And you need to think that like you're going to be doing this for many years of your life. And so you don't want to invest in something that ultimately you decide is not for you and you're not sure if you have staying power with it. It would be easier to change tracks if you chose something that's like a shorter path. And this is something I want to touch on later, but let's just say that you want to get up and running fast. That's one sort of personality category that I would say is if you're a fast starter, you want quick to launch, then you would want to pick something that's more in the MA, like medical assistant, CNA, certified nursing assistant, LPN, licensed practical nurse, like things like that that can move quicker. And that doesn't preclude you from picking something that is more years, more prestige, more money, more autonomy later. In some ways, this is actually a good gateway to get into those pathways by already working in a medical profession, and admission committees will look at that as sort of good faith. You've already proven interest in a field. And if you chose later to go to medical school, nurse practitioner school, whatever your maybe later goal is, you can pivot to that. If let's say you chose something more like you started out saying you wanted to go to medical school for whatever you've heard, and then later decide, I have far too many friends that have done this, that have chosen medical school for whatever reason, and later decided this wasn't exactly what they wanted. Something I'll touch on later is sort of picking medical school and wanting to be in a certain specialty and then not being able to get the specialty you want when it comes to residency, and then ending up in something different. At that point, you're so far in, most of my friends, if they've gotten that far, stuck with the path because it becomes too much time invested, too much money invested to switch horses later. So I just don't want you to end up in that same pickle where you've started in a pathway that isn't the right one for you and you don't feel like you have the flexibility to change later and be, I don't want to say miserable, but maybe less happy than you could be if you have chosen a path that was more appropriate for your personality. If you are somebody who is looking for structure and clear roles, that would be more in the category of like registered nurse, a radiology tech, a sonographer. So those would be things that are pretty clear roles. If you want something that's more responsibility, more autonomy, that would be more in the nurse practitioner, physician category, something like that. Probably dentistry, I would imagine, optometry, that kind of thing. So now, granted, we are people that are complex with multi-interest categories, and we don't always fit neatly into a box. We are dynamic. And so you may be thinking, well, I do like clear roles. I do like structure, but I also want some autonomy or something like that. So maybe what might be appropriate, maybe you don't want to spend like a million years in school, but you want a decent living, perhaps being a registered nurse, but not do hospital-based nursing might be more appropriate for you. Maybe doing like a telehealth type of thing. A lot of times people who think that they're entering nursing think that they have to be hospital-based nursing. That's not true. There is a gazillion things you can do with nursing that don't require you to work in a hospital. Granted, some exposure is probably nice. You'll get exposure through school anyway, but if it's not your personality, don't feel like you're going to have to be married to that path of being like a bedside med surg, ICU, whatever nurse. You can be a school-based nurse. You can work in a clinic. You can do telehealth. You can do nurse triage remotely. There are other categories that can maybe fulfill your other side, where there's like nuances within a profession that fulfill multi prongs of your personality that still allow you to choose a pathway that's like the main category and then go kind of on a tangent that fits you more appropriately. So I can I'm happy to field any questions or answer if you're sort of on the fence of like, well, I'm this kind of personality. What do you think would be the best? Feel free to drop a question and I'm happy to answer. So anyways, just consider that when you're starting out and trying to figure out the right path for you, because I'd hate to see you end up going in the wrong direction and waste time and money. And you find that out later. Give it some thought before you start really going whole hog in a path and then end up having to switch lanes later. Right. For now, that's it. We'll talk to you later.